We have new information about the deadly shooting of a pregnant woman in Tallahassee yesterday. Arrest papers say she was the suspect's girlfriend. Jakari Martin Chagrin told investigators that he and Maya Johnson were arguing at their home on River Breeze Lane. He said he grabbed some of his belongings and was trying to leave when the gun went off. He claims the gun was not in his hand, but pinned against his body. The gunshot killed Johnson and her unborn child. Martin Chagrin is facing 2 counts of manslaughter.
She was a glowing, expectant mother of 2, a TikTok star, just 26 years old, and within seconds she was gone, shot in the chest by the man who claimed to love her. In Florida, where headlines are often stranger than fiction, Tallahassee stands out for more than just its college town charm. Underneath the canopy of Southern Oaks and student buzz, this city wrestles with a growing shadow, rising domestic violence. Florida's reputation for unpredictable crimes isn't just an internet meme. It's a reflection of real lives lost to split-second decisions. From jealousy to control, these stories don't start with guns. They start with tension, insecurity, and silence behind closed doors. And in this case, silence turned fatal. Maya Johnson was just weeks away from welcoming her 3rd child. She had a rising TikTok presence, a beautiful smile, and dreams she often shared with her followers. But all of it ended during a heated argument over something most of us scroll past daily, an Instagram post. One like, one comment, one spark, and a young mother's life was taken in front of her children. What happened inside that home on River Breeze Lane? Why did a petty jealousy spiral into deadly violence? And is Jakari Martin Chagrin's story of an accidental shooting really the truth? Stay with us, because the answers are as haunting as the silence that followed. Have you ever seen something escalate this quickly over something so small? Let me know in the comments. Is social media becoming fuel for toxic behavior? If you're new here, welcome to Crime Scene Exposed. We bring you deep investigations into the world's most disturbing crimes, from shocking disappearances to twisted minds and devastating tragedies. If true crime captivates you, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a case that matters. Maya Johnson was more than just a name. She was a bright light in the lives of those who knew her. At 26, Maya was a dedicated mother of 2, with a 3rd child on the way, and a woman full of life, creativity, and dreams. She had built a thriving presence on TikTok, where she shared moments from her life, her sense of humor, and her unique perspective with thousands of followers. But behind the camera, Maya was first and foremost a mother, driven by a deep love for her children and a fierce determination to provide for them. Her social media posts painted a picture of someone who loved to have fun, laugh, and share her life's joys and struggles. But the online persona only scratched the surface of who she truly was. Maya was known to her family and friends as someone who was warm, caring, and always ready to help others. She brought light to every room she entered, and her infectious personality made it easy for her to connect with people. Her family describes her as someone who had big dreams for her future. Maya's love for her children was at the center of everything she did. She was excited about her 3rd pregnancy, eager to bring another child into the world and give them a life filled with love and support. Her hopes for the future were simple: to raise her kids in a safe and nurturing environment, to continue building her online presence, and to keep smiling through whatever life threw her way. However, Maya's relationship with her boyfriend, Jakari Martin Chagrin, was complicated. While they had been together for several years and were expecting a child together, those close to Maya knew that their relationship was not without its struggles. Despite the ups and downs, Maya remained committed to her family, hoping that things would improve with time. Family members and close friends remember Maya as someone who would do anything for her children. Her cousin recalled, she was always there for her kids, no matter what. She would have done anything to give them a good life. She had dreams of creating a better future for them. Maya's friends spoke about her infectious spirit, saying she lit up every room. Her laugh was contagious. She had so much to live for. Her life was not just about the ups and downs of her personal relationships, but about her role as a mother and her constant drive to make a difference in her children's lives. Her presence was felt by anyone who crossed her path, and her potential was boundless. But tragically, her life would be cut short, leaving a gaping hole in the hearts of those who loved her. Let me know in the comments, what's one thing you cherish most about the people you love? October 22nd, 2024, began as a typical morning in Tallahassee. The sun had risen, casting a gentle warmth over the quiet, residential neighborhood of River Breeze Lane. The sounds of birds chirping outside mixed with the soft hum of traffic in the distance, marking the start of another day. But inside the home of Maya Johnson and her boyfriend, Jacare Martin Sugren, things were far from calm. In the early morning hours, Maya discovered something on Instagram that immediately stirred a feeling of discomfort in her chest. It wasn't unusual for Maya to check her social media, especially with the bustling life she led, managing a family and maintaining her online presence. But this time it was different. Jacare had liked a photo, a simple gesture that seemed harmless at first. However, the woman in the picture wasn't someone Maya recognized, and the image was flirtatious, fueling her insecurities and suspicions. Maya, who was 8 months pregnant with their third child, had a right to feel the way she did. She had loved Jacare deeply, and despite the small, quiet moments of doubt she had buried deep within, she wanted nothing more than for her family to be happy. She wanted to believe in their relationship. But this simple act, a gesture so small yet so significant in today's world, set off a storm inside her. As the morning progressed, Maya couldn't let it go. The image weighed heavily on her mind. She had tried to push it aside, to continue with the usual tasks of her day. But the nagging feeling wouldn't subside. After a while, she couldn't hold it in anymore. She confronted Jacare, wanting to know why he had liked the photo, why it had bothered her so much, and why it made her question the trust they had built over the years. "What is this about?" she asked, her voice steady but trembling with emotion. She was vulnerable, tired, and pregnant. But more than that, she was hurt. Jacare, who had always been quick to brush off any concerns Maya had in the past, was immediately defensive. He dismissed her concerns, telling her it was nothing, and that she was overreacting. His tone, dismissive and condescending, only fueled Maya's anger. It wasn't just about the like, it was about the deeper issues she had noticed in their relationship. The feeling that, despite the years they had spent together, something was missing, something had changed. The tension between them grew quickly. Words were exchanged, harsh, pointed words that hit deeper than either of them expected. Maya, who had always tried to avoid confrontation, now found herself emotionally raw, her frustration bubbling over. She had tried to communicate, tried to make sense of what was bothering her, but Jacare wasn't hearing it. Every attempt she made to voice her feelings was met with indifference, or worse, irritation. As the argument escalated, Jacare, who was growing increasingly agitated, stormed into the bedroom. Maya followed him, hoping to reach some kind of understanding. But the emotional distance between them was growing. Maya's voice cracked as she tried once more to explain how much this meant to her, but it only seemed to provoke him further. The back and forth continued, words spiraling into accusations, bitterness growing with each passing minute. Jacare's frustration was evident. He began packing his belongings, an act that felt like a final break in their already strained relationship. The noise of him rifling through their bedroom echoed through the house, but Maya's anger drowned out the sounds around her. She was hurt. She was exhausted, and she didn't understand how something so trivial could cause all of this. She thought they had been in a good place, excited about the arrival of their child. But now, standing face to face with Jacare, everything was unraveling. Maya, who had spent years building this life with him, couldn't understand how something so small, an Instagram-like, had triggered such a violent reaction. She had hoped for reassurance, but instead, she got anger and resentment. The emotional wall between them was now a chasm too wide to bridge. Tensions reached a breaking point. In a flash of anger, Jacare's frustration turned into something far more dangerous. What had started as a disagreement over a social media post soon transformed into something irreversible. Maya tried to stop him, to plead with him, but in that moment, the argument exploded. The room became chaotic, and the violence escalated faster than anyone could have anticipated. In a cruel twist of fate, a simple disagreement, a moment of jealousy over a picture on a phone, became the catalyst for something far more tragic. What should have been a conversation between two people trying to understand each other ended in something irreversible. In an instant, Maya's life was taken away. The house, once filled with the sounds of children playing, of shared laughter, now echoed with the tragic silence of what had just happened. The innocence of the day, the expectation of a future together, was shattered in a moment of rage. Maya's dreams, her future with her children, and the life she had hoped to build with Jacare were now gone. Jacare, who moments before had been packing his things, now faced the aftermath of an unimaginable decision. The world outside continued as normal, While inside that home on River Breeze Lane, the devastating impact of jealousy, anger, and a moment of violence had sealed Maya's fate. Her family and friends would never be the same again. Her children would never grow up with their mother, and the life she had been so excited to share with them was now nothing more than a memory. All of this because of a small moment, one Instagram like, that spiraled into something horrific. What do you think went through Maya's mind when the argument turned so violent? Let's discuss in the comments. The morning after the tragic events, Jacare Martin Sugrin seemed to remain in shock, almost as if disconnected from the gravity of what had just occurred. At around 8:30 a.m., he reportedly made an urgent phone call to Maya's family, stating that something had happened. When they arrived at the house on River Breeze Lane, they found Jacare frantically pacing around, his face clouded with confusion and panic. Maya was lying unconscious in a pool of blood, and it was clear that she had been shot. According to Jacare's account, the shooting was an accident. He claimed that the gun had gone off while the two of them were arguing, that he never meant for it to escalate to this point. The tragedy was framed as a momentary lapse, a fleeting decision that spiraled out of control. The bullet had struck Maya, and in his panic, he rushed her to the hospital, desperately hoping she would survive. He insisted it was all an unfortunate mistake, something that had escalated quickly in the heat of the moment. Maya was immediately rushed to the nearest hospital, but despite the best efforts of medical personnel, she was declared dead upon arrival. The loss of this vibrant woman, who had so much ahead of her, left the community in shock. In an instant, a mother, a partner, and a beloved figure in her family's life was gone. But this moment of loss would soon lead to deeper questions, as Jacare's version of events began to fall apart under scrutiny. As detectives began their investigation, they immediately noted several inconsistencies in Jacare's statements. His claim that the shooting was an accident seemed less believable the more they delved into the details. According to law enforcement sources, the trajectory of the bullet did not align with his account of events. A bullet fired accidentally from close range should have followed a different path than the one discovered by forensic experts. The angle of the shot was inconsistent with a casual, accidental discharge. These details would prove to be the first cracks in his story. Witness statements also contradicted his version of the shooting. Neighbors who had heard raised voices and the sounds of an argument coming from inside the house described hearing a loud bang, followed by silence. No one reported hearing any struggle or sounds of a gunshot fired in a moment of distress or panic. The stillness that followed seemed more fitting for a deliberate action than an unfortunate accident. The inconsistencies piled up, leaving detectives wondering if Jacare's account was an attempt to cover up the truth. The inconsistencies were further amplified by the absence of any logical explanation for why Jacare had even had a firearm in the home. The investigation revealed that the gun in question was legally registered to him, but no one in Maya's family could recall her ever mentioning that he kept a gun around. Had it been readily accessible during the argument? The presence of the weapon seemed too much of a coincidence in a domestic dispute that had spiraled violently out of control. Detectives continued to examine Jacare's relationship with Maya, noting that there were signs of tension in the months leading up to the incident. The couple had been struggling with their relationship, and Maya had confided in friends and family about her concerns. Despite their attempts to keep things together for the sake of their children, the underlying issues seemed to have finally boiled over. Yet even with this history of emotional strain, no one expected the confrontation to escalate to this degree. The tragic irony of it all was that the fight started over something as trivial as a like on an Instagram photo. The mounting evidence led investigators to believe that Jacare's story did not match the physical evidence found at the scene. The autopsy report confirmed that Maya had been shot in the chest from close range. This indicated that the shooter had been close enough to ensure a fatal shot, not an accident during a heated argument, as Jacare had claimed. Additionally, Maya's injuries showed signs of defensive wounds, suggesting she had tried to protect herself from a violent attack, adding further doubt to the accident explanation. In the days following Maya's death, the investigation began to take a new direction. Detectives re-examined the couple's history, speaking with those who knew them best, including friends, family, and even co-workers. Some reported that Maya had recently discussed her plans to leave Jacare, citing her growing fears over his temper and jealous tendencies. Others described how she had expressed concerns over his social media activity, especially his interactions with other women. These comments seemed to align with the explosive argument that had ultimately led to Maya's death. One of the most telling pieces of evidence was a text message Maya had sent to a close friend just hours before the incident. In the message, Maya described feeling uneasy about her relationship with Jacare and said she was thinking of taking a break. She confided in her friend that she was scared of what might happen if things didn't change. That message, now a critical piece of investigation, painted a picture of a woman who had seen the warning signs of violence and was trying to make a plan for her safety. As the investigation deepened, detectives uncovered even more disturbing details about Jacare's history. Though he had no prior criminal record, interviews with those who knew him revealed a history of violent outbursts and volatile behavior. Witnesses described him as someone who often reacted explosively to small perceived slights, someone who wasn't afraid to use his fists when he felt slighted. This history of anger issues, combined with the mounting evidence, made it increasingly difficult to believe that Maya's death had been anything less than intentional. The case against Jacare grew stronger as the investigation progressed. The inconsistencies in his story, the evidence surrounding the shooting, and his history of violence pointed toward a deliberate act rather than a tragic accident. He was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, and as the legal process moved forward, more questions arose about the emotional and psychological factors that may have contributed to his actions. What drove Jacare to the point of murder? Was it jealousy? Control? Or was there something darker at play that Maya had never fully understood? Do you believe this was truly an accident, or is there more to this story? Share your thoughts below. Maya Johnson's tragic death serves as a stark reminder of the dangers that lurk within domestic violence, particularly when seemingly small triggers, like jealousy, can escalate into violence. At the heart of this case is the sobering reality that a life was lost over a momentary lapse in judgment where an argument spiraled out of control. The violence that unfolded between Maya and Jacare highlights the extreme consequences of emotional manipulation, possessiveness, and toxic jealousy, all of which can transform a relationship into something dangerous. Domestic violence often begins with subtle emotional or psychological control, but can quickly evolve into physical abuse. In Maya's case, the argument over something as trivial as an Instagram like demonstrated just how quickly resentment and jealousy could become a catalyst for fatal violence. The mere act of Jacare's attention being diverted toward another woman on social media appeared to have ignited something much deeper within him, something that Maya may not have fully realized at the time. Unfortunately, she had not only been a victim of escalating emotional abuse, but also a victim of a culture of control and entitlement. Research has shown that jealousy, especially in controlling relationships, is a powerful trigger that can lead to violence. In cases where individuals are highly possessive and emotionally unstable, even seemingly minor actions, such as a partner interacting with someone else on social media, can lead to dangerous confrontations. These moments are often misinterpreted by the abuser as threats to their control, resulting in disproportionate responses. In Maya's case, this intense jealousy culminated in a moment of violence that tragically ended her life. This incident also brings to the forefront the important conversation about gun violence in the context of domestic disputes. The presence of a firearm in a volatile relationship increases the risk of escalation. Studies consistently show that the risk of intimate partner homicide increases significantly when guns are present in the home, especially in situations where there is prior history of abuse or instability. Had Jacare's gun not been so easily accessible during the argument, it is possible that Maya might still be alive today. The tragic irony is that something as seemingly ordinary as a domestic squabble over a social media post escalated into a fatal event, made all the more dangerous by the presence of a weapon. This case underscores the need for stricter gun regulations. While many states in the U.S. have implemented laws aimed at reducing domestic violence deaths, the reality is that these measures are often insufficient in preventing a tragedy like Maya's. Background checks and waiting periods may not be enough to stop an individual from obtaining a gun if they are emotionally unstable or intent on harming their partner. In Jacare's case, the weapon was legally registered to him, but his emotional volatility made him an unreliable and dangerous gun owner. Stronger policies that limit access to firearms for individuals with a history of domestic violence could prevent a large number of such tragedies. Maya's case also highlights the wider social issue of toxic relationships, a phenomenon that affects countless individuals, often behind closed doors. Many victims, like Maya, do not realize the severity of the warning signs until it is too late. Jacare's behavior, which included emotional manipulation, jealousy, and possessiveness is a textbook example of an abusive relationship that many people may struggle to recognize until it's too late. Unfortunately, many toxic relationships thrive on isolation, manipulation, and control, creating an environment where one partner feels trapped. It's only when the violence escalates, as in Maya's case, that the true danger becomes apparent. For those on the outside, it can be difficult to see the warning signs of a toxic relationship, but there are red flags that should never be ignored. These include constant jealousy, controlling behavior, emotional manipulation, and a lack of respect for personal boundaries. In some cases, it may not be easy to spot, especially when the abuser has a way of making their actions seem justifiable or the victim feels obligated to protect the abuser's reputation. Maya may have been caught in a cycle of love and fear, where she felt compelled to stay despite the growing tensions in her relationship. Many individuals in similar situations may remain silent out of fear or shame, making it crucial for loved ones and friends to remain vigilant, to listen, and to offer help when possible. This case also fits into the broader conversation about the intersection of domestic abuse and gun violence in America. The national conversation about gun control often focuses on mass shootings, but domestic violence-related deaths should also be part of that dialogue. In households where guns are present, the risk of fatal outcomes in abusive relationships is significantly increased. If Maya's case had not involved a firearm, it's possible that she could have left the argument with just emotional scars. Instead, she was tragically murdered in a domestic dispute that could have been avoided if the proper support systems had been in place for both parties involved. The deeper issue here is that violence within relationships is often treated as a private matter, hidden behind closed doors, and not enough is being done to break the cycle. Awareness campaigns and educational programs need to do more than raise awareness. They should encourage individuals to report abusive behavior, seek help before it's too late, and most importantly, address the stigma that often surrounds victims of domestic violence. We must create a society where those suffering in silence can feel empowered to speak out, and where accountability is placed on the abuser rather than the victim. Maya's story offers a tragic lesson in recognizing the warning signs of both domestic violence and the dangers posed by firearms. But it also compels us to reflect on the societal factors that allow such tragedies to occur in the first place. Why does jealousy and control go unchecked in so many relationships? How do we, as a community, fail to notice the early warning signs? And perhaps most importantly, how can we better protect individuals like Maya, who had so much to offer the world, before they become another victim of domestic violence? The tragic death of Maya Johnson is a call to action. We must educate individuals on the signs of toxic relationships, push for stronger gun control laws, and foster a society where victims are empowered to leave dangerous situations. We must strive to prevent the escalation of emotional abuse and violence, where something as innocuous as an Instagram like can spiral into tragedy. It's a painful reality that speaks to larger societal issues, and it's one we can change if we choose to listen and take action before another life is lost. Maya's story teaches us that domestic violence, no matter how small the trigger may seem, can lead to devastating consequences. To prevent future tragedies, we must remain vigilant in identifying the early signs of control and manipulation, advocate for stricter gun control, and empower individuals to leave dangerous relationships before it's too late. We can all play a part in breaking the cycle. Maya Johnson's untimely death leaves behind a gaping hole in the lives of those who knew her. A mother, a daughter, a sister, and a friend, Maya was full of life and promise. She had dreams, a growing family, and an online presence that allowed her to connect with the world. But in the blink of an eye, all of that was tragically taken away over a moment of jealousy and violence. Her story, while tragic, is one that must not be forgotten, as it serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers that exist in relationships where control and manipulation are allowed to fester unchecked. The ripples of Maya's death extend far beyond her own life. Her children, who will grow up without the guidance and love of their mother, are left to navigate a world without her. As they grow older, the loss of their mother will undoubtedly shape their lives in ways that are hard to measure. They will never get to experience the warmth of Maya's embrace, the sound of her laughter, or the comfort of her voice during times of need. Her absence is an irreplaceable void that will impact their futures, and they will carry the weight of this tragedy with them forever. The community around Maya, her family, friends, and even those who followed her online, has been left grappling with a sense of disbelief and loss. No one could have imagined that a simple argument could escalate into such a horrific and final act. The love, care, and joy Maya gave to others are now only memories, and for those who remain, the question of why will echo through their lives for years to come. In the aftermath of her death, we are reminded of the importance of supporting those who find themselves in toxic relationships. Domestic violence is not something that can be ignored, and it's crucial that we create an environment where victims feel safe to speak up and seek help before it's too late. We must also push for more awareness and action to prevent these types of tragedies from happening again. If this story has resonated with you, please consider subscribing and sharing to raise awareness of these tragedies. Let's honor Maya's memory by spreading kindness and understanding, and by working together to create a future where no one has to suffer in silence.